This is the part of the program where we dig a bit deeper behind the headlines with our guest analysts who will help us explore the stories and issues of the day. And today we have the current affairs analyst, Professor of Communications and Deputy Dean of the Postgraduate School at Bayes University in Abuja, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi. Prof, great to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you, Charles.
I'm in great company, one prof after another. I'll just let you do the thinking. I'll just let you do the thinking. But let's start with Senator Osita Izunaso, who we had at the outset. He's running to be president of the Senate in defiance, if you like, of the party whip. What do you make of all of that?
Well, but I think Osita Izunaso, senator, or senator-elect, has a distinguished career behind him. He's been an excellent journalist, and of course he has made, he's been very successful to a very large extent in politics. And he was in the House of Representatives, having worked there as well. Then do not forget that he was the one that saw off the late legendary Senator Otto Nzeribe away from the Senate.
That is true.
In 2007, so he's a giant killer in a way, and he might have some kind of ammunitions, that we don't know yet. But what I think is the strength of his aspiration is his arguments. His arguments are really very, very solid. That politics is about integration and inclusion, and it shouldn't be measured on the basis of inputs or at the level of votes or something else. The Southeast is a very critical section. The Southeast has been in the front burner in terms of allegations, or not even allegations this time, obvious case of marginalization. And one way to start bringing about inclusion is to give them some good position, arrange some positions for them. It shouldn't be based on the number of votes that they brought into that they brought into the fray. Remembering that in 1999 or so, President Olusegun Obasanjo was not supported by his region, the Southwest. But when he came in, he did not reward them. He didn't outcast the Southwest on account of they are not supporting him. Rather, he integrated them, gave personalities from the Southwest some good position that eventually led to the gradual reintegration of the Southwest into the national body politic, and such that in 2003, he got a substantial number of votes from the Southwest. So it's a gradual process of building trust, building support. And do not forget, again, he made a very important point that some time ago, there were no senators from the Southeast, there were no governors, but now they have two governors. They have some
under
level
the
of,
APC.
Yeah, there is a gradual process of building, and you could consolidate that if you support him for the position of the Senate presidency. And he has everything that it takes. He's relatively young, he's brilliant, he's got the charisma, he's got the polish, he's devoid of scandals, and if
how do you measure him against the competitors? I mean,
well, the competitors, in fairness to them, they also have the right pedigree, but Izunaso is not somebody that you can shove aside at the level of merit. He's been in the bureaucracy, he's been in the House of Representatives, he's been in the Senate, and he's got good education. He's not just a journalist, but he's also a lawyer. So he's an all-rounder, as the case could be. So if those positions are actually based on merit, you would think that it's somebody that should actually make it. He will stand shoulder to shoulder with whoever is also in the fray.
Right. That's a good point. And his central argument has always been that irrespective of issues of zoning and marginal, he doesn't agree with the zoning arrangement because obviously it doesn't favor him.
He raised a technical point about the zoning by the party, that it's just advisory yet. It's not final, irrespective of the support that we understand was given to them by the president-elect, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Yeah, although people are disputing whether that support was actually given by Tinubu. That's right. But that's, we can't tell whether or not that actually happened. But let's move on to your fellow professor, Jibril Ibrahim. His analysis, always something to take note of. He was talking about what is happening with the two sides as the inauguration approaches. The ideological movement, the obedience, notably, obviously you've got the PDP in the middle, but And then, of course, the people who support the president-elect and so on, everything heading towards the inauguration. Yeah. What's your sense of his assessment of the mood of the country?
I think he was quite spot on, largely. Because it's not just a political contestation that we are witnessing. And I think I've made the point before that it's more like an ideological war, which you underscored some minutes ago. A contest between the past and the present, between yesterday and today, you know, between old and new generation. Now, an ideological war can be very, very vociferous, you know. It will appear as if the ideologues or those who are subscribing to a particular ideology have been proselytized, because you see them almost becoming doctrinaire, you know, die-hearted and unwilling to shelve the idea. And you can't fault people on this note, because we have had a past that has not paid us in the last 60 or so years, and people want something new. So if the younger ones or those who believe in a particular candidate, you know, are very determined and are thinking at the level of perception, strong, unusual kind of perception, that it could still happen, you may not blame them. But again, that's why we have another intervening, the judiciary. And that intervention is likely going to bring a closure at some point before reality begins to down. That is, if it doesn't go their way. So it's still a process that we are in, and until that process is concluded, it's not over. Right. And even now, Charles, tension is still hovering around. You know, nuggets of bits and pieces of stories are flying around the social media on how May 29 is going to be. Do not forget we have a judgment on Friday. You know, and those things have been analyzed as something that could determine the outcome of the election one way or the other. So it's still, the anxiety is still on the air somehow, although there are permutations, whether it's going to go left, right, center, or middle. You know, the permutations will continue until it is final. But the gratifying thing is that the tribunal has concluded all the pre-trial cases, all the matters that come in the pre-trial session. They are all concluded now. The trial proper is supposed to begin. They have given dates, August, so to say, before judgment is announced, then probably before it goes to the Supreme Court. So the route to a final conclusion of the 2023 presidential election is becoming clearer. And until the final definition, the final decision by the apex court, you know, we cannot say it's a huru yet, you know. Absolutely. But again, we just hope that at the end of the day, there will be peace in the country and we can move forward.
That's the most important thing, and that's a good note on which to end. Prof, thank you very much indeed. Professor Abiodun Adeniyi is a current affairs analyst, professor of communications and deputy dean of the postgraduate school at Bayes University in Abuja. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Charles.
That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye and thank you for watching.